S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra go at each other while something inhumane is brewing. Hello everyone, welcome to my review of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2. Finally, I finished it. And I will say that probably with each season because it's 22 episodes. Look, I love this season. I think this season is absolutely fantastic. There you go, roll credits, I guess. But it is still a big watch. So this season picks up kind of where the last season left off. Little bit of spoilery for the last season, as it happens with shows, because S.H.I.E.L.D. fell thanks to Winter Soldier. Well, named mainly Captain America, but Captain America the Winter Soldier is the reason that S.H.I.E.L.D. fell. And now Coulson is appointed the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. While we also have to deal with the return of Hydra, thanks to, well, in that movie, revealing that Hydra is among us and has been among us for so long. And I love this season's storyline because this season's got multiple storylines. We don't really have fillery episodes. Technically, we can have one if you really want to count that as a filler episode. There's a fair lady that appears in that episode, but if you want to count that as a filler episode, then fine. But outside of that, this show has made it so that they're gonna do bigger storylines now instead of smaller storylines like with what they did with season 1, where it was like more of a reactionary thing to the MCU. This time we're gonna have less reactionary things, but we're still gonna tie in with mainly Avengers Age of Ultron, which was the next upcoming movie that came out, because it's gonna be kind of difficult to tie the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in with like Guardians of the Galaxy when that happens in space and the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. happen on Earth. So technically, in between Winter Soldier and Age of Ultron, we didn't really get a movie. So Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. also has a lot more freedom this season, and I love that. I love how they're making the show their own. So let's just talk about the cast. Starting off, we will go through the returning cast, and then we'll go to the new additions. So starting off, we have Clark Gregg back as Phil Coulson, once again doing a fantastic job in the role. And I love how the responsibility thing is a thing that we get. Also, at the end of season 1, there were these, like during season 1, at least earlier on, in episode 4 and with Garrett, you had these like weird symbols that they drew, that were drawn. Coulson at the end of season 1 started drawing those as well, and we get a resolution to that plot line as well in this season, while Coulson also has to be the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and hopefully not go insane like Garrett did. And I love the way that that is handled. Next up, we have Ming-Na Wen as Melinda May. She gets backstory in this season. Like, there's one point, I will not spoil anything, but there's one, we have a spoiler talk for that. But there's one point where she looks happy in one episode. It is so weird. But we get some more backstory about her. And you know what? Backstory about Melinda May is never unwanted, because that was kind of the character that did not really get it. I mean, the whole, like, the cavalry storyline is all we got, but we didn't really get flashbacks. We really only got, like, talks about it, and everyone was telling a different story, so no one knows what's real. That's all the backstory we really got for Melinda May. Something happened in Bahrain, and that's it. Now we get more, and I love that. Next up, we have the main character of this season. Now, the main character of the last season was Philip J. Coulson. I don't know if his middle name is J, but I'm gonna say it, put a J in there just because I can. It actually is Philip J. Coulson. Anyway, this season is all about Chloe Bennett's character, Sky. This is her season. Not in the beginning. No. But later on, everything will revolve around her. And yeah, this is why this season is fantastic. It's because of Sky. Because of the emotional pull that this season has with Sky. I love it. I love it so much. Because, as was teased at the end of season 1, her dad is also in this season. Let's just give that guy a shout out as well. We have Kyle MacLachlan. I don't know how to pronounce that. I apologize immediately. But he plays Dr. Calvin Zabo. For any comic book fans, maybe deep comic book fans, I don't know how well known this character is, but he is known in the comic books as Mr. Hyde. And let me just say this, this actor is fantastic as well. But the dynamic that Sky has with her dad in this season is really what makes the season. The family dynamic is what makes this season for me. It's got so much emotional stuff, because also, not necessarily a spoiler warning, but her dad's not all there. He's kind of an insane person. And how Sky reacts to that, and you know, her family in general, is really were the main problem. It is the main thing. Next up, we have Fitzsimmons in this season, and they also go through development. Starting off with Ian the... I hate pronouncing last names that are difficult to pronounce. I apologize, Fitz. You're my favorite character in this show so far. But I am sorry that I cannot pronounce your actor's name. So Leon plays Fitz. Fitz in the last... Well, Fitzsimmons in the last season were dropped in the ocean by Grant Ward. And, well, we learned at the end of that season that Fitz may never be the same. And he isn't. He's got a big disability within this season. And seeing him go through that is painful, but the way that he goes, and also inspiring as well, because he presses on even though, because look, Coulson, he puts him on the back burner because of the fact that, you know, his problem is the fact that he knows what he needs to say, he just can't get it out. That's the main issue. And Coulson puts him on the back burner, but he wants to be on the front lines as well. So no matter what, he presses on. And then also we have Elizabeth Henstridge as Gemma Simmons. And I will say this, what they do in this season with her character, I understand, but I don't like it, okay? I don't like it. Gemma's my least favorite character this season because she is everything I'm against. I guess that's the best way to describe it. I don't really want to say anything because the reason I don't like her is because of spoilers, and I don't want to give spoilers. We'll do that in the spoiler talk. But I liked her, but also later on in the season, I started to dislike her. And if I remember correctly, Season 3 kind of pulls her back in. So that kind of like fixes the issue. So it's more like a character arc that she's going on. It's just because of the character arc, I don't really like her. But the actress is great. And finally, for the returning cast, we have the evil Grant Ward, played by Brett Dalton. At the end of Season 1, he got locked up. And he is basically our information guide into Hydra, in order so that we can take down Hydra. That is basically what it is, but if you know anything about Grant Ward, you know this is not going to stay that way for much longer. But I liked him in this season. I like what he goes through and also what he becomes at the end of the season. I really like that. Now let's move into the new characters. Well, kind of new characters. This is kind of a 50-50 shot because I didn't talk about this character. Starting off, we have BJ Britt as Agent Antoine Triplet. He appeared in the last season, but he appeared late in the season, so I couldn't really talk about him. But now I can. He's here in this season, and I really liked him in this season. He's not my favorite character. He's not even my favorite black character in this show. That is a new character that we get introduced to. But I like him. He's basically our Grant Ward replacement for the team, in a sense. And also in the last season, I really liked the way that he and Gemma, like, you know, formed a friendship during the Hydra uprising, and that hasn't really changed in this part. You know, Trip is a very nice guy who really cares about his teammates. So now let's move on to the absolute new characters. Starting off, we have Nick Blood as Lance Hunter, and I really like Lance in this show. He is not part of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's more of a mercenary, if anything, a gun for hire, and he doesn't care. He truly doesn't care. He is sarcastic. He is also disrespectful, and he kind of reminds me of myself outside of the coolness factor and the attractiveness factor and all the other factors that make him such a cool character. It's just, he kind of just says what's on his mind, and I love that about him. Next up, we have Adriana Palicki. What are we? Alright, sure, why not? Hey, you didn't choose your last name. As Bobby Moore. Fans of the comic books may know her as Mockingbird. Never in this season is she officially referred to as Mockingbird. Maybe next season, but not this season. I don't know. Haven't seen next season yet, and I won't see it for a while because there's a couple more movies, but I like her very much in this season. She is basically what if May had a personality that wasn't just leave me alone. That's basically it, because she is about as badass as Melinda May is. Like, in a fight between the two of them, I have absolutely no idea who would be able to win. But she is great in this show. And also, Hunter and Bobby have had a bit of a past with each other, so that's also interesting. And then finally, for our main character, good guys, we have Henry Simmons as Agent Alfonso McKenzie, also known as Mac. And this is my favorite black guy on this show so far. Absolutely love him. He, in the beginning, you don't really know much about him, you know, where he lands. But the moment that he tries to form a friendship with Fitz, it's instantly like, yep, that's the moment when I started really liking him. The way that he plays like the big brother on the team is really, really well done. And that made me just love him so much more. He's like the big brother. And also, because of the problems that Fitz has, Mac kind of helps him through that. And that's just fantastic. I loved Mac in this season. But now let us move on from the good guys to our bad guy. And this bad guy is the main bad guy of the whole show. His name is Daniel Whitehall, and he is played by Reed Diamond. And he is a fine enough bad guy. He is a threat that needs to be stopped, but he also really enjoys his work because discovery requires experimentation. And for some reason, he was alive during World War II and seems to have not aged at all. And by the way, that's how the show opens, so it's not really a big spoiler. But he hasn't aged one bit, somehow. And I like the mystery behind that, how they figured it out. I wouldn't say he is like a perfect bad guy, you know. He's not up there with like Loki or something like that. But he is a good enough bad guy to set all the pieces this season into motion. Because whether he directly does something or indirectly does something, everything happens this season because of what he does or did. He sets it all into motion. And that's what I love about him. And I guess finally, because this guy does not really... he is kind of a good guy, but he is also a kind of a bad guy sometimes. He's like an in-between guy, I guess. He works for the government, so he's never gonna be an actual good guy. But he also isn't an actual bad guy. He was introduced towards the end of Season 1, and we have Adrian Pasdar as Brigadier General Glenn Talbot. He is the guy that we kind of work with, but also work against, because he wants to take down S.H.I.E.L.D. after the crimes that I've committed, as you saw at the end of Season 1. But we also kind of work with him because we give him presents, so that, he can kind of get up in power. But we give him gifts so that he kind of leaves us alone and we can do our work. But also, he doesn't always leave us alone. But I really like the way that he is portrayed in this season. He is a funny character without actually being funny. It's like the Batman thing. Batman is not a funny character. However, he can have reactions to stuff, and his reactions will be funny, which does not make him funny. He has like legit reactions to like the insane stuff that happens this season, and it's just funny. But I really like him, and also he will become a mainstay throughout the show. And when he becomes actually really important is when I will talk about him again. And that was basically the cast to talk about, at least the main cast. We don't really need anyone else really to talk about. And like I said, what I loved about the season is the fact of how it intertwines the storylines within each other. We have, if I were to count it, we got about 3 storylines. 2 of them are big. One of them is kind of an in-betweener breather storyline. And I like the way that it handles it, because sometimes seasons draw out their whole storyline over the course of a season, a la Iron Fist, and they don't have enough material in order to make the season itself interesting, because they just stretch it and stretch it and stretch it. Or you have what I will review in the future, very soon, actually, in about maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. Depends on what comes in between, but mainly 2 weeks. Because next up is Ant-Man and then Daredevil Season 2. But in Daredevil Season 2, you have the storyline of the Punisher, which then the Punisher kind of gets pushed away. And we have, oh, hey, look, here's the storyline for Elektra. However, what this season does very well is it plants seeds early on in the season. So that it's like, oh, so now we're focusing on that part. Oh, that's pretty cool. The way that we move from one point to another already happened in the original storyline. It's not like, alright, Punisher's gone, here's Elektra. That's basically what Daredevil Season 2 is. And this season doesn't do that. It doesn't fall into that trap. Also, I guess I got a new subscriber. As I am recording this, Glenn subscribed to the channel, so welcome! Just popped up my mail. It's like, bang, someone subscribed to you. And it's actually on this channel, not the Let's Play channel. But I love how it intersects the storylines and how it already sets them up at the beginning, like even in Season 1. Because a big part of the storyline also is the writing. It is Hydra and the writing. Those are the main things that will set this season into motion. But like I said, I love the way that we go from one into the other. It's like taking the next turn, and it's so seamless. We do have the whole, oh hey look, now that is done, next up. But the setup was there in order for that turn to feel less like it's just as an abrupt like, oh my god, what just happened, and more like and now we're going left. So let's just move straight into final verdict. So my final verdict for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna give this season a high recommendation of a 9 out of 10, and I mean a really high 9. There are small issues that I've had with this season that more like nitpicks, but they kind of piled up, that for me does not make it a 10 out of 10. Like, it's almost there, but it's not quite there. It is like a 9.999999999 out of 10, which if you were German, I just said no point, no. But it's like right there, but it just doesn't get across. It doesn't get there. It doesn't get to the 10 out of 10. But I can't give it a full 10 out of 10 because I don't fully believe that this deserves an actual 10 out of 10. But it is still a high recommendation. If you have never seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., watch it. Please, it is so worth it. But that has been my review of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2. So let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2. Did you love it? Did you not? Please don't put spoilers down there, because the fact that I will upload a spoiler talk in about I don't know, 20 minutes or so. So you can then spoiler fill your way through it. But what did you think about the season? Let me know in the comment section down below. And with that being said, thank you all so very much for watching, and I do hope you guys have enjoyed. And if you did, please like and subscribe if you're new, if not already. Turn on notifications, and don't forget to check out my Let's Play channel, link in the description and at the end of the video. And also, Glenn, once again, thank you very much for subscribing, and next time we're gonna go to the small world. Bye!